Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about my rescue strategy number 2, which is somewhat related to rescue strategy 1, which we looked at keeping offcuts of your vegetables in the freezer to be used at a later date for stock and soups and stews and things like that. So this one is also using the freezer, so just different things that I freeze in different ways. So we've got, for example, chopped up some pumpkin. I've just put some in a container, and I might have, this one for example is the right amount of pumpkin for a chocolate cake that I make that uses pumpkin in it. So it's already chopped up and it doesn't take much from there to make the recipe. I make a cauliflower rice, but I make it a bit different to other people's cauliflower rice. But what I've done here is I've just put it's half a cauliflower with some onion, turmeric, paprika, cumin and salt, so it's ready to go. So if I get that out of the freezer and it defrosts, I can throw it in the frying pan and cook it down so all the moisture evaporates, and I've got a nice kind of dryish, delicious condiment to go alongside, you know, a curry or a stew or something like that. And so that's kind of prepped, ready to go, ready to cook. Other things, you know, like grating carrots and then freezing them, so that's ready to go on a cake. So I know, so I usually write on this one says 3 cups, so I can just easily use that. This one's just, I've called it ratatouille, so just baked in the oven. Cherry tomatoes, eggplant and capsicum from our garden from summer, so this was from February. So it's just all chopped up and cooked together. This is really great because I can use it just like this, so it's kind of chunky, but I can also, once it's defrosted, cook it up and whiz it up so it's smooth, and add some chicken stock or vegetable stock to it and turn that into a soup. It makes a really good soup, or a pasta sauce. It's also really good. So just things like that. That's got the last one from last summer. Grating courgette, so that's quite a big bag of courgette, but I haven't squeezed any of the water out of it or anything, so once that has defrosted, I don't actually need to kind of wait any longer. All that water will come out of it, and so I can squeeze that, and then we use this for usually courgette fritters, but also, you know, like a courgette loaf or something, where I'd still squeeze a little bit of the moisture out. But freezing things does cause that, you know, them to release a lot of moisture. So one thing I also tried this last summer, I actually roasted strawberries. This one's with ginger and maple syrup. And so if you cook things even partially, they take up a lot less space in the freezer. So it's a really good way, and that's why we do the ratatouille style thing. You can take huge amounts of capsicums and eggplants and tomatoes, and, you know, put onions and garlic or other things with them if you want, or not, and then you can add that later. But what it means is you've reduced it down to the volume that they take up in the freezer is heaps less. It's heaps less than if you had you know, frozen them whole or just quartered or anything like that, which you can absolutely do. You know, take your cores out of your peppers, throw your tomatoes into the freezer whole. Once they come out of the freezer, the skins come off really easily, so if you like doing that for preserving, that's really useful. But for me, I don't have a huge amount of freezer space, so it's really important that I'm kind of conscious of the space. So yeah, you use those little baggies, and they can be reused as well. The takeaway plastic containers, they're really good and they stack really well, but they don't survive being in the freezer very well, so they'll break really quickly after having been frozen. Jars work really well, but just be aware, depending on what you've got in them, make sure they're cold, like they've cooled to room temperature or fridge temperature before you put them in the freezer. Make sure there's enough room. If you've filled them all the way to here and it expands, then it's going to crack the jar. And what I actually do is I'll have the lids all just sitting on top, sit them all in the freezer till they're frozen, and then do them up before they're put away. And that just guarantees that they don't break. So I think I've only had a couple break, and I can usually tell why. So these are just old peanut butter jars that we use for that. So we'll do all our stocks and broths and things in jars as well. So yeah, that's a rescue strategy for today. Just freezing vegetables that you maybe have excess of or don't get around to eating, or if you've partially made a meal or you've prepped for dinner and there's some extra, or do put some effort into prepping for more than one meal and then freezing it. So likes of that makes dinner prep so much easier, to just be able to pull something out that's already, you know, all the chopping's already done. You can just go straight into the frying pan, and then it can actually be baked in the oven. It's really good for doing larger amounts, and then you just have to stir it less often. So yeah,